According to Statistics Canada, a lot of immigrants are leaving the country, right? And the rate at which they are leaving is very alarming. A lot of immigrants are leaving Canada for the following reasons. The healthcare system is upside down, all right? Before, you could just walk into any clinic, ask to meet the doctor. In the next 15 minutes, you get to meet the doctor. Before, if you need a surgery and you need a referral, all you need to do is just to walk in a random walk-in clinic and meet a doctor, ask for a referral. In the next 2 weeks, you're in for surgery. Before, to get a family doctor, all you had to do was just walk to the clinic reception and ask if there are any slots open for a particular doctor, and they will just let you in. But nowadays, to find a family doctor is going to take you minimum 2 years. And the kind of process you have to go through, the amount of phone calls, the amount of headaches. To get a family doctor nowadays in Canada is minimum 2 years. And even if you previously had a family doctor and you want to change, it's still going to be the same process. It might even be worse because you have to go now and change everything about your previous doctor. And like I said, getting a referral for a surgery before was so easy. The doctors nowadays, they take it personal. They act like they are the ones paying for it. When you ask for a referral, either they will not give it to you, or when they eventually give it to you, it's going to end up being in the next 1.5 years, or maybe in the next 2 years too. So everything, when it comes to the healthcare system, everything has changed for the worse. The average time you spend in an emergency room in Canada is 14 to 18 hours. And while you are spending that time, most times the only thing they'll end up doing for you is bringing you in, calling you in, take your blood pressure, ask you about your symptoms, and at the end of the day, give you Advil or Tylenol to drink. And when you eventually get to meet the doctor, either the doctor is going to be very aggressive, very dismissive, and I guess it's because they are not well paid for the work that they do. They are overworked, and most times they're not even going to pay attention to what you're telling them. All they're going to do is that they're going to cook about things just to dismiss you. And at the end of the day, most times your problems won't even be resolved. So basically in Canada nowadays, you just have to take care of yourself and avoid getting sick. Because if you are relying on the Canadian healthcare system, you are going to be buried for 4 years before they'll eventually get your name for that particular surgery. And that is why nowadays, you see a lot of people, they prefer to work hard, save their money and go to the surgery and pay for whatever service they want, and they get it right away. Because in the US, it's all about money. As long as you have your money, you pay for whatever service you want and they do it for you. Canadian healthcare system has become a mess. That is why a lot of immigrants are leaving Canada. Secondly, low salary for workers. The salary rate in Canada is not very competitive. Canada is mainly about titles, all right? Canada is mainly about titles. Your bank account is not going to reflect all the hard work you went through to get a title, all right? Canada is all about titles. It's very easy to see a doctor here, a nurse, an engineer that is underpaid and overworked compared to the doctors and nurses and engineers in the US, all right? And what I mean by that is this. It's very easy for you to see an engineer in Canada with, let's say, about 7 years experience still be at about $90,000 yearly, all right? While in the States, with that same 7 years experience, their mates are close to $200,000. That means Canada does not pay enough money, all right? The salary that a nurse, a doctor, an engineer, or even professors do make in Canada is nothing compared to what they do make in the US. Nurses, engineers, doctors basically double our salaries in Canada. So Canada, the salary rate here is not very, very competitive, all right? That's why I see a lot of people leaving for the US, leaving for Dubai, leaving for Kuwait. Because even if you're overworked, you are being paid for being overworked. Not like Canada. People are not getting paid enough for the amount of work that they do perform. And even when it comes to the potency of the Canadian currency, it is very low, right? It is very low compared to the US. Thirdly, the income tax is too high, all right? In Canada, we have what we call the state and federal tax. With every paycheck you have every month, they do cut that tax from your paycheck, all right? And sometimes it can be very brutal. The federal and state income tax is just way too high. And it will not even encourage you to work overtime in case you need extra money, right? Because the more you work, the more taxes they take. Let me give you guys an example. If you're in Canada and you're one of those people that is lucky to maybe hit to maybe hit a salary rate of maybe like $150,000 a year, Canada is going to come in and take away almost half of that your salary, right? Let's say you make $150,000, like I said. Canada taxes, whatever they're going to come and take from your check, you are going to find yourself earning half of that salary. And these taxes too are not encouraging. They do not encourage you to want to work overtime, because working overtime here is basically like you're just doing voluntary work. You work so hard, then they take off so much money. It is like the more money you make in Canada, the more they take from you, the more they want to punish you. The more money you make in Canada, the more you are punished. And I don't know, the less money you make, even when you go for your tax return at the end of the year, even the more money they give you back. That is why a lot of immigrants are leaving Canada. Fourthly, is high housing and rental market cost, alright? The way houses are presently expensive in Canada is unbelievable. You will go for a simple townhouse, they'll be telling you $798,000 for what? And when it comes to those individual homes in good neighborhoods, you're basically in millions already. And presently, to rent in Canada, a bachelor in Canada is minimum 1.8. A 1-bedroom is minimum 2.2. And that's even depending on whatever city you come from. So you can just imagine. And even before, in the past, they had some people that couldn't afford renting by themselves because either they don't have good credit or their credit is low, so they couldn't go rent by themselves. So they used to rent rooms in people's houses. Back then, for you to rent a room in someone's house, it used to be max $580 something or maybe $600. Nowadays, for you to rent a room in a stranger's home is nothing less than $900. Nothing less than $900. So you can imagine how much harder things are now. Because I remember back then when my mom used to rent, you go for a 1-bedroom, they tell you $700. You go for a 2-bedroom, they'll tell you maybe like max 1-2. But nowadays, everything is so high up there. And on top of all of that, you will pay that money and you will even think that something is going to be included. They'll tell you it's $2,200 for 1-bedroom and nothing is included. Everything else is on you. And people, even especially after the pandemic, people try to downsize their lives, wanting to leave homes that they bought to be able to come back to rental. But when you even come back to rental now, renting out this is more expensive than the mortgage that some people used to pay before. That is how bad the Canadian system is nowadays. That is why a lot of immigrants are leaving Canada. And the fifth reason is the weather. Canada is very, very cold. And it is cold for a long time span, alright? It is cold for a long time span. And when it comes to this cold weather thing, you always have to be blasting the heater. But some people can't afford that. Some people only turn on the heater when they are home or when they are about to go to bed. Let me give you guys an example. I went to visit a friend once that just bought a home. And I was like, man, your house is so cold. But with time, I spent the weekend with her. I was like, no, I can't stay here. This is crazy. Then it's later on that she came to me and she was like, the bills are just too much. I basically turn on the heater when I'm home or when I'm about to go to bed. I'll turn on the heater for like a good 4 hours. Then when I go to bed and everything, I sleep. And another in the morning when I wake up, I turn it off. In Canada, during winter, you can't even walk barefooted on the floor. You eventually get a cold pneumonia. It's always cold. It's excessively cold. So cold temperature is another reason why a lot of people leave Canada. That's why you even see a lot of people, they have homes in places like the US. They go there during winter and they come back during summer, alright? Because that is how cold Canada is. That is why a lot of immigrants are leaving Canada. Number 6, social life in Canada is basically non-existent. And what I mean by that is this. There is little to no socializing in Canada. Let me tell you how it works in Canada. Canada is basically a routine. From Monday to Friday afternoon, everyone minds their business, focuses on work and education for their children. And maybe from Friday night to Saturday evening, the max people do is go to restaurants and bars to eat, and that is it. Especially for us Africans and Black people in general. One thing, we're in a cold country. Most of us, we're not into snowboarding. We're not into skating on the canal. You will not find us just randomly going around the streets during winter. It doesn't go well with us. So during winter, we have minimal to no activities, alright? And during summer, max is going to happen again. It's restaurants, having barbecues. Our fun always revolves around food. There's so much you can do in Canada. Your fun is always going to revolve around food. You even see somebody getting married. When you see somebody having a birthday party, it's going to be a restaurant or indoor, you know. And on Sunday, the max is going to happen is go to church. And that is even for those that go to church. But Canada in general, there is little to no social life, all right? Because everybody minds their business, all right? And everything here is a routine. Nobody has time for excess activities. That is why a lot of immigrants are leaving Canada. Number 7, retirement in Canada is very expensive. If you are to end up in a retirement home, for you to get a spot, you will need to have at least $3,000 to $15,000 for a room in a retirement home, right? So retiring in Canada is very, very expensive. And you know, the older you get, you know, you don't have the strength. Your hustle is not going to be as when you were young. So things are just expensive. And with time, you might not be able to handle them as you used to handle them before. That's why I see a lot of people now traveling to Mexico, traveling to Cuba, all that stuff, because they want to enjoy the max out of their hard work, all right? Because when they go there, they know that they will get a lot out of their money compared to if they stayed in Canada. That is why a lot of immigrants are leaving Canada. Number 8, entrepreneurship and owning a business in Canada can be very hard, okay? Can be very, very hard. In Canada, whatever business you're planning to venture into, if it doesn't revolve around food, you're in a big mess, because Canada does not do anything else than eating. But when it comes to other businesses like selling clothes, shoes, electronics, and all that stuff, you won't really go far, or at some point you have to close down, because those things, they don't really work in Canada, right? Canadians are not into fashion. All those things are going to work in the US, but in Canada, it is not going to work. Another thing is this: Canada monopolizes most business sectors, all right? For example, telecom. Rogers and Bell are the ones dominating Canada. They do not let any other small company raise their head. Rogers and Bell are in control when it comes to telecom businesses in Canada. Canada, that is all they know. Rogers and Bell. It's either Rogers, Bell, or nothing. They do not allow other small telecom businesses to thrive. I know of a friend in the USA that has a software testing company. He tried to work with different telecom businesses in Canada and it didn't work out for him, and he was so frustrated. And he decided to give it a try with the USA, and now he's gone. Now he's a millionaire. Canada monopolizes a lot of things. Whatever they know is what they know, and they want to stick to it. That is why a lot of immigrants are leaving Canada. Number 9 is high cost of living and food. The rate at which food has become expensive in Canada is mind-blowing. I feel sorry for those that have more than 2 kids. Last time, I went to the store and I saw a pineapple for $6. I was like, this pineapple, was it cultivated by Jesus? $6 for a pineapple. And the pineapple was not even organic. Nowadays, a bag of apple, $9. The way food is expensive in Canada nowadays, it is really scary. And nowadays, for you to even find things at a normal price range, you have to drive around. You have to drive to a couple of stores to be able to look for sales. But that driving around too, it's a lot of gas. It's a lot of money. So at the end of the day, it's still going to be the same thing. It's still going to be equivalent to the same thing. You are still wasting a lot of money. So at the end of the day, you end up buying those things because you don't have a choice. The cost of food now in Canada is insane. And I can imagine, you know, if you're a single person, you don't have responsibilities here, responsibility of kids and everything, you don't have a family yet. I can imagine for those that have a family, it must be really, really hard for them. Very, very hard. I can just imagine. That is why a lot of immigrants are leaving Canada. So these are some of the reasons why I believe a lot of people are leaving Canada. A lot of immigrants are leaving because everything right now is upside down. Canada is no longer fluent like before. Canada is no longer cool like before. Nowadays, it's very, very difficult to survive in Canada. And it takes a lot to keep your head above water. So these are some of the reasons that I could come up with, all right? Maybe you don't know other reasons. Let me know down below, all right? Let me know other reasons why you think people are leaving Canada. All right, y'all, that is it. So if you could relate to the video, like what it was all about, don't forget to subscribe, like, drop a comment, and share, all right? It's all love over here. Bye.